Good afternoon, everyone. The April 26, 2011 meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee will now come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Gamble? Mr. Gamina? Ms. Cayley? Mr. Tucciarello? Chairwoman Valerio?
Here. Well, I think before we do the public forum part, let's have Mark come up and make his presentation. So he doesn't have to go home in the rain. Mark Quinn.
Hi, our plant of the month this month is azaleas. Azalea is a common name, kind of like lilac is. It's actually rhododendron is its genus name.
Really?
They're very closely related to the rhododendron. They actually are a rhododendron. All azaleas are rhododendrons. Not all rhododendrons are azaleas. Azaleas are a small leaf type of rhododendrons. There's dozens of species of azaleas. There's probably 10,000 varieties. They're very, very highly cultivated, so you can get numerous different plants. From a perspective of growing them, they're a plant that actually likes shade, not full shade, but they like a partial shade. They like acid soil, and they're very shallow rooted. So when you're growing an azalea, if you get into a drought situation, you might need to water them. Makes them particularly easy to move, and in some circumstances steal, unfortunately. But they're very nice for shade. There's a million different colors. Again, acid soil. If your soils around here tend to be alkaline, so if you're planting a rhododendron in the Rochester area, you'll probably want to add peat moss to the hole. They don't grow particularly quickly. They're either slow growers or moderate growers. So you can generally keep them in bounds. They're not a plant that takes over your entire yard quickly, which is kind of nice in circumstances if you don't like to do a lot of pruning. Do not prune them heavily. If you do prune azaleas or rhododendrons, prune them right after they bloom, which is pretty typical of most things, because other than that, you lose the next year's bloom. Lots of great azaleas out there. The parks have a wonderful collection of azaleas in Highland Park and Durand Eastman Park, and they're just about to start blooming now. You've got a fairly large range of bloom. The earliest ones are going to start blooming right about now, and they'll go on for a good month. So you can always get some of the later ones if you want to increase your length of bloom. It's a great show. If you see the steps coming up off the corner of Pine Needham and Goodman Street, probably in about 2 weeks, it's phenomenal. Great place to take pictures. Anyway, any questions?
I actually have a question. Technically speaking, would they be classified as a plant, a bush, or a shrub?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Through the chair. Very nice. Okay. Now let's move on to the official meeting. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Okay. Is there anyone present who is not signed up who would like to address the committee? I don't see anyone, so assume that is no. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the March 22nd, 2011 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Madam Clerk.
Referral 11-109.
Moved by Mr. Gumina, second by Mr. Tucciarello. Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Cayley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the administration, in the acceptance of the offer and the payment appropriations, it's not a large amount, but what budget line does that go into?
Chair, probably the general fund, but let us confirm that and get back to you for the next committee.
That's it? Okay. There being no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, item carries. Next item.
Referral 11-
Moved by Mr. Tucciarello, seconded by Mr. Gumina. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Gumina.
Through you, Madam Chair, two questions. When is the Lilac Festival this year? And how much does the county usually net from the Lilac Festival?
Through you, Madam Chair, the Lilac Festival 2011 begins on the 13th of May, and we've been inundated with questions about will lilacs be in bloom, and yes, they will. Probably this late spring has helped tremendously with the lilacs, not with our field conditions or park conditions, but the lilacs in particular have been holding quite well, and they should be in great bloom during the festival. On the what does the county net? The county doesn't really net. The money goes through Lilac Festival Incorporated through the contract with our producer. We get 15% or 2.5% of the gross profit that the producer makes, and that averages about $15,000. All that money is put back into Highland Park.
Okay, Ms. Cayley.
Thank you. Through the chair, could you be a little bit more specific when you say back into Highland Park? Does it go into the trust fund, or does it go into just general funds for the park?
Through you, Madam Chair, currently the money goes into the Lilac Festival Incorporated's account, and then it's dispersed by Lilac Festival Incorporated at the request of the County Parks Department for different projects in the park.
Thank you. Could you just give an example of what those projects might be?
A great example is in the last few years we've updated most of the electrical systems throughout Highland Park, most particularly in Highland Park South where the festival is held. Those upgrades were entirely paid for through the Lilac Festival Incorporated funds.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm assuming there's no entry fee, and so I guess all the profits would, or the monetary funds would come through the rentals or the booths, or what is?
Through you, Madam Chair, the Lilac Festival derives its funding. As you pointed out, it is a free festival. There's no entry charge. For the second year in a row, there's no paid concerts. All the activities are free this year. All of those funds are derived from sponsorships and from rentals of the booths and such.
So what is a typical rental for a little booth? If you had a vendor wanted to sell something.
I don't think that there is a typical rental. I think it varies on the type of activity that they're performing. I know that food is different than, you know, a display of some sort. But that's all.
Crafter.
Yeah, that's all handled by the producer.
That's what you have to ask them. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? I'm going to go knit something. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 11-111, authorizing.
Moved by Mr. Gamina, seconded by Mr. Tucciarello. Any questions? Mr. Gamina.
Through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the timeline for this project or for the master plan design, would that be occurring sometime within the next 6 months, and then when it starts, how long does it take?
Through you, Madam Chair, we anticipate that the kickoff meeting, the public participation kickoff for this would be in the next 6 months, and that's funded through this portion of the contract with Passero through the engineering portion. That would be the public participation where we go in, we have basically what we call a whiteboard meeting with community, neighbors, interested parties, user groups, and talk about what was in the master plan and what has been done in the master plan, what hasn't been done in the master plan, and kind of determine what people would like to see this particular amount of money spent on. We then go back and ask the engineering firm to scope it out, give us cost estimates, come back and have another meeting and talk about what can be accomplished through that $1 million of construction funding. So that would probably take place in the next 6 months, and then you'd have design and construction would probably be next year.
Mrs. Cayley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, could you, in the, it states that there were a number of bids received. Could you give me the number of bids received? Or responses, excuse me.
Through you, Madam Chair, as you correctly point out, they weren't bids, they were responses to the RFP. We received 6.
And could we be, excuse me, through the chair, could we be provided with the rate sheets for those at a later time?
Sure.
Thank you very much, that's all.
Any further questions? There being none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no further business, the April 26, 2011 meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee is scheduled for Tuesday, May 24th, 2011 at 5 p.m. Thank you.